Alright, so this is a new version of my kayak yoke video because I've been busy. In the last month, this is the third new kayak yoke that I built, although most of that work was done within a few days of frantic cutting and recutting and lots of sanding. But this one is the last of them, and the one that I'm the most proud of and the happiest with so far of all the yokes that I built. This one's been on a camping trip. It's proven its worth on portaging and came out with flying colors, so I thought I'd share the updates. So there's a few things that are different from my previous yoke, but I'll talk about everything for people who haven't seen the previous video. So let's highlight the features. The main things that matter: number one, these. Single most important thing on the entire yoke. The idea with this is these sit on the underside of the cockpit. As the cockpit tapers towards the front, these will adjust themselves automatically as you're kind of pushing it up like this, and it will just lock itself in place based on that. You need to make sure you space these appropriately for the size of your cockpit and make sure it's going to lock itself in place somewhere where your cockpit kind of tapers naturally and doesn't have any kind of weird, juts in or what have you. The big things that have changed in this version. Number one, you'll notice that these are now angled inwards. This is a 15-degree angle as measured by my skill saw and all the cuts. The reason for that is these end up resting on your shoulders. Your shoulders are not flat. They taper downwards. This tapers with them, and it just makes for a much more flush fit than the previous versions, which were straight up. Again, with the angle theme, you'll notice that this isn't flat anymore either. It's likewise angled up, and it's pretty much for the same reason. The kayak is pointing upwards towards the front, partially so you can see and partially because it's just sort of the natural way to carry. So this just supports that angle in the same fashion so that it's not unnaturally cranked up when this is flat, because it makes for a much more consistent pressure across all of the support structure. The other big change is what I'm using as the actual foam that sits on these. I used to be using kayak blocks, cut down kayak blocks, but they were very tippy. They'd sit on, and I built this thicker to fit the width, but most of the block was solid block with just a little bit sitting on this, and as a result they'd be very, they'd shrink in, they'd push out, and you'd be kind of fighting them from time to time. So I thought I would try the pool noodle. Something that will be around as long as we're alive. You can pick it up anywhere, and they're pretty much consistent. So with a pool noodle, it simply sits on. Now the things to notice here: the way I cut not only this beam but the two support beams on both sides, and these are here for a couple of reasons. One is, if you just glued this on with nothing else, it's not going to stay, right? This is to help make sure this is solid. But I angled these and cut these to such a height and on such an angle that the inside of the pool noodle is going to be resting here, but at the exact same time the edges, this and this, will be resting on this and this, so that you get even pressure across a number of different surfaces. So see how that works? Hopefully that's going to show up, but it's right flush along the edge, it's right flush along the edge, and it's on the inside, it's there. So again, the whole idea is share the pressure across as much surface as possible, because this is just a piece of foam. It's not going to take 100 pounds of weight. Not that you should be carrying 100 pounds of weight, mind you, but it's not going to take 50 pounds of weight without buckling and the foam starting to collapse, and that's going to cause problems. In the same vein, you'll notice that the entire inside of my pool noodle is lined with duct tape, and it's just another another way to help spread out the pressure. Rather than, if this was bare foam, I guarantee you it's going to end up cutting in to one place or another wherever it happens to rest, and once it starts to cut on one place, it's just going to add to the pressure in that area, and eventually you're going to find your pool noodle is basically broken through right to the surface. It's going to break into two pieces, or otherwise just stop working the way you want it to. So take the time, add some duct tape or really anything to the inside as another way of ensuring that this will have some endurance to it. So that's basically it. The shape didn't change much from previous versions. The big changes were the slope up, the slope in, and of course the change to the foam blocks itself. But I took this on my last camping trip. I did a number of portages, probably total of about I don't know, 6-7 kilometers worth of portaging all told over our trip. And it was flawless. You know, no problems, went on easy, was very comfortable. The weight was distributed nicely on my shoulders, so I've been really pleased with this. I have a 1-week solo trip coming up in 2 weeks tomorrow, and this will be what I take. So I'll post a trip report when I get back, but I have every faith that that this is going to come through with flying colors. Oh, one last thing. I found a smaller pool noodle, which I'm just using as a bit of a neck rest. Not really necessary, but you know, it's another place where if you can rest your neck against a nice chunk of foam rather than against this, it's better. You know, it's not horrible either way. Obviously, sandal surfaces, you don't want any sharp edges really anywhere, especially anything that the pool noodles are resting on. If you've got a sharp or hard edge, it's going to be much more likely to cut in. And of course here, your neck is going to be here unless you're using something like this. But just take the time to sand down all your edges, make everything smooth, make everything rounded. As you can see, or hopefully you can see that I've done here. It makes a big difference, and it's worth the little bit of extra sanding that it takes to make sure nothing's going to get ripped or otherwise misbehave. So that's it. This is Kayak Yoke version 5, 6 since I started building these, and yeah, I'm really pleased with this one. So hopefully somebody out there builds it and has the same experience that I've had so far. Thanks for your time.